Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into the really fascinating world of digital influence. We're taking a close look at a specific TikTok account, Simon Impact Founder Journey.
Yeah, and this isn't just, another social media feed. It's actually chronicling a very real entrepreneurial path, amplifying the missions of Directed Development and Tyson.io. Powerful stuff.
Exactly. So our mission for you today is to unpack what truly makes content like this resonate. We want to pinpoint growth opportunities and sort of understand the strategic blueprint behind building an impact-driven digital presence. We've meticulously analyzed 45 posts from Simon's account, running from March 2024 right up to June 2025. And honestly, it's a goldmine if you're looking to cut through the noise and genuinely connect, especially with, say, the next generation of African tech leaders.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, isn't just the mechanics of the account itself. It's how a founder so deliberately uses digital platforms to drive a social mission, a really profound one.
Right.
And this brings us to a crucial question, doesn't it? How can authentic storytelling, on platforms like TikTok, create real-world impact? And how does it foster a community around these purpose-driven ventures?
That's the core of it.
Yeah. We're going to uncover not just what worked for Simon, but more importantly, the deeper why it mattered, connecting it all back to the bigger picture of digital influence and, social entrepreneurship.
Okay, so let's start by diving into Simon's core content. His account seems built on three really clear pillars. You've got practical startup advice, then this raw, behind-the-scenes founder life.
Yeah, the unfiltered stuff.
Exactly. And then the impact-driven storytelling, which is obviously key. He's constantly sharing insights from industry leaders, but also his own journey, like that video where he interviews a unicorn founder.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. The teamwork makes the dream work clip.
That's the one. Simple but effective. And what immediately stands out is his use of hashtags. Things like hashtag building in public, hashtag impact startup, hashtag startup advice. He uses them consistently.
Which really cements that identity, doesn't it? Transparent, mission-driven.
Totally. And keywords like founder, tech talent, and Africa really pinpoint his specific focus. For example, he shows students learning vital life skills, swimming, communication in Directed's Mombasa talent program. So after seeing these clearly defined content pillars, what's your take? How does he manage that strong authenticity? Is it just the consistency, or is there more to it?
Well, that's a great observation. I think what's truly compelling here is how Simon isn't just posting randomly, He's carefully crafted this narrative. It consistently reinforces his identity, his mission,
Right.
and that deep alignment, the personal journey matching the brand's purpose, that's absolutely crucial for authentic connection, especially when your audience really values those aspirational but also relatable stories.
Makes sense. And the unpolished footage, like you mentioned, the Nairobi Founders House tour.
Yeah, that felt very real. Exactly. It contributes hugely to the authenticity. Even if it, sometimes lacks a bit of visual polish, it signals to the audience that it's genuine, not overly produced.
Right.
And actually, that could be a massive asset on TikTok.
Interesting. So the lack of polish is almost a feature, not a bug.
In many ways, yes. It shows that purpose-driven content, when it's consistently framed with the right hashtags and keywords, can really target and resonate with a specific audience, even when you're talking about complex topics like tech education in Africa.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. How Simon weaves Directed Development and Tyson.io into his content. And it's seamless, right? These aren't just like tacked on mentions.
No, not at all.
They're integrated through storytelling, those behind-the-scenes glimpses, testimonials. We see him sharing personal updates like the Mombasa Talent Program offsite, highlighting students' building habits, learning new skills. It feels very natural. And he promotes Tyson.io by featuring that unicorn founder's advice on teamwork.
Connecting the advice directly to the service.
Smart. Exactly, linking it right to the service that connects founders with pre-vetted interns. And he even uses event content, like that Draper University pitch you mentioned earlier, to discuss tokenizing income-sharing agreements.
Which is pretty advanced stuff, right?
Yeah.
Converting future student earnings into a tradable digital asset.
Totally. It positions Directed as really innovative in how they're thinking about financing education.
Definitely.
And it all feels so organic, not salesy. It aligns perfectly with his whole hashtag building in public thing. But, it sounds almost too smooth sometimes. Is there a point where people might start to see through that, especially if the business mentions increase? Or does that building in public ethos give him enough cover?
That's a really perceptive question. Because it's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you promote a business without sounding like, well, a commercial?
Yeah.
Simon's approach, I think, is a masterclass in that organic integration you talked about. By making the services directed to education, Tyson.io's talent connection just part of his authentic founder story, he builds trust, not resistance.
So the transparency is key.
Absolutely. The building in public ethos frames those business mentions as part of the journey he's sharing openly, not just some hidden sales pitch.
Okay.
Think about the example of students learning to swim. That's not just a random highlight. It powerfully illustrates the holistic impact of directed programs. It goes beyond what the services are to why they matter to real people.
That makes a difference.
It really does. And the consistent mentions, across nearly every post from March 2024 to June 2025, that shows sustained commitment. It's not just a gimmick.
Right. It shows he's really invested.
And his background, Oxford, his global network, that lends significant credibility. It helps position these services as, credible solutions to really big systemic challenges like unequal access to opportunities in Africa.
Okay, moving on a bit. Simon definitely isn't doing this alone. He's had some really significant collaborations, big names involved.
Yeah, those stood out in the analysis.
The absolute standout is clearly that joint video with Stephen Bartlett.
Ah, yes, the hiring advice.
Exactly. Bartlett sharing advice on hiring extraordinary people early on, even overpaying for them. Super concise video. I think it was only 12 seconds, but it got over 9,600 views, nearly 600 likes. A real viral moment for the account.
Huge numbers compared to his average.
Definitely. And then there's Emily Canham, the lifestyle influencer, talking about starting small to solve problems. That seemed to resonate with aspiring entrepreneur.
Different angle, but still relevant.
He also collaborated with Anton Tarasuk, the CEO of GG.Africa. That one focused on scaling strategies, and that seemed to really strengthen his connection with the African tech audience specifically. We saw high share rates on that one.
Which is a great sign of resonance.
For sure. And the founder of Clear, that Y Combinator-backed app, shared advice on resilience. Also very inspiring, apparently. So, we know collaborations are powerful generally, but what was the secret here? Why did these specific ones have such an outsized impact for Simon?
Well, it's fascinating because collaborations are, as you say, significant amplifiers. But it's not just about grabbing any big name you can.
Right.
The Stephen Bartlett video, for example, it dramatically exceeded Simon's average engagement. That shows the raw power of a high-profile figure, just for sheer reach.
Okay, so reach is part of it.
It's part of it, but I'd argue the real secret is alignment.
Alignment, how so?
Look at the collaborations with African-focused creators like GG Africa or other impact-driven founders. They don't just add eyeballs, they reinforce his core #impact startup niche. They broaden his appeal, but specifically among those socially conscious audiences who already care about his mission.
Ah, so it's targeted reach.
Exactly. And those high share rates you mentioned, like with the Clear founder or GG.Africa, that's a powerful signal. It suggests the post didn't just get seen, they deeply resonated, they inspired people enough to share them. That drives organic growth.
Because the content itself had value.
Precisely. Actionable or inspirational value that genuinely stuck with the audience. So it's the thematic fit, the quality of the insight shared, and that genuine connection between the collaborators. That's what truly unlocks the amplifying effect, I think.
Okay, let's dive into the data then, because this is where the picture really sharpens up, doesn't it?
Yeah, the numbers tell a story.
The analysis shows a, moderately strong like-to-view ratio, pretty decent, and an impressive share-to-view ratio, actually, especially for those inspirational or regional stories. People were sharing those.
Which aligns with what we just discussed about resonance.
Right. But then, that comment-to-view ratio, it's remarkably low, often 0, actually.
Yeah. That definitely stands out.
It suggests a clear need for maybe stronger calls to action, something to actually spark conversation.
That would be the logical conclusion, yeah.
And looking at the standout posts again, Stephen Bartlett, nearly 10,000 views. Driven by the name, sure, but also that super short 12-second runtime and the actionable advice.
Quick and impactful.
And the other hit was that storytelling video, the one about visiting Mark Zuckerberg's 2004 house.
Ah, the nostalgia factor.
Exactly. Thousands of views there too, likely due to that emotional hook, the tech history vibe.
People love those kinds of stories.
But then you see the underperformers. A video about bootstrapping, maybe a student story that got a bit too technical.
For too long.
Yeah, somewhere over 2 minutes. And maybe lacking that immediate emotional connection.
Right.
You know, when I first looked at these metrics, that low comment ratio really jumped out. What does all this tell you about What truly grabs attention on TikTok for this kind of audience, and what kind of engagement are they actually looking for?
Well, this is where the knowledge becomes really actionable, right? The breakthrough here isn't just the obvious point that short videos perform better on TikTok. We kind of know that.
Okay, so what's the nuance?
It's how Simon, in his best posts, packs actionable, high-value advice or a strong emotional hook into those fleeting, say, 10-20 seconds, especially with high-profile guests. It's the density of the impact, not just the brevity itself, that made that Steven Bartlett video pop.
Density of impact. I like that.
Yeah. The data clearly shows viewers on platforms like TikTok are scrolling looking for quick, impactful nuggets, information or emotion.
Right. Get to the point.
Get to the point. And the low comment ratio, as you pointed out, yeah, that's a common challenge for lots of creators. It really highlights a missed opportunity for deeper interaction.
So how do you bridge that gap?
Well, often a clear, direct question at the end or a really strong call to action can significantly improve that, something specific for people to respond to.
Ask them directly to engage.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it just underscores how important audience-centric content creation is. It's not enough to just share what you find interesting. You have to tailor it. Tailor it to the platform's unique consumption patterns, like speed, and tailor it to the audience's emotional drivers.
Got it.
And clearly, inspirational stories, aspirational themes, those historical hooks like the Zuckerberg House, they resonate way more than overly niche or dry technical content.
Okay, so building directly on those insights, let's talk optimization. Refining the strategy. The analysis suggests Simon's highest engagement typically happens on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Specific days, okay?
Yeah, and specifically during the evening hours, looks like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. East Africa time is the sweet spot. That's when we see videos like the Steven Bartlett one and the Zuckerberg House Tour doing exceptionally well.
Peak times matching peak content. Makes sense.
But then morning slots and weekend daytimes, they tend to underperform significantly.
Interesting. So avoid those times.
Seems like it. And inconsistent posting, big gaps sometimes between uploads, that also clearly hurts momentum.
Consistency is king on these platforms.
Always. And we also see patterns in tone, right?
Yeah.
Inspiration consistently dominates the high engagement posts. Educational content works, but it needs that emotional hook we talked about.
Needs the why.
Exactly. Nostalgia performs well. Humor seems underutilized. Maybe an opportunity there.
Potentially, yeah. If it fits the brand.
And urgency is effective sometimes, but you have to be careful not to overuse it, right? It can feel a bit forced.
Definitely risky if overdone.
So how can these findings guide future content creation? Not just for Simon, but for any creator out there. And what's maybe the most surprising takeaway for you here?
Well, that brings us right to the crucial point, doesn't it? How do you move from just analyzing this stuff to actually taking effective action?
Right, making it practical.
And the data here provides a pretty clear roadmap. Now, optimizing timing is fundamental, we know that. But Simon's data highlights something quite specific, that peak engagement in East Africa during evening hours.
Yeah, that ET window.
It's not just about general online activity levels, it suggests a specific window where his kind of content aspirational tech-focused really hits home with an audience likely engaging after work or school.
So it's culturally timed, almost.
It seems that way. Shifting even, say, 70% of posts into those peak evening slots could significantly boost that initial visibility. It's a simple but powerful tweak.
Okay, that's actionable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And furthermore, deliberately infusing those emotional tones we identified.
Inspiration, nostalgia.
Yeah. Whether it's inspiring through personal milestones or tapping into nostalgia with tech history, doing that consciously can transform just an informative video into a highly shareable one. Like pairing the educational stuff about Directed not just with technical details, but with a student's personal emotional journey. That makes a huge difference.
Connecting the head and the heart.
Exactly. And the most surprising takeaway for me, it's probably the power of that specific cultural timing, combined with the content type. It really shows that consistent, short-form, emotionally resonant content, timed strategically for the target audience, and supported by clear calls to action. That's the recipe. That seems to be the key to sustained growth and real impact on platforms like TikTok.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Simon's journey, I think, offers a fantastic blueprint, a real-world example of building an authentic, impact-driven digital presence.
Absolutely.
It really boils down to leveraging your unique story, staying deeply aligned with your mission, and truly understanding the crucial nuances of how content performs on different platforms.
The details matter.
They really do. From the concentrated power of a 12-second clip with a big name,
Like Bartlett.
to the simple importance of posting consistently in the evening, tailored to your audience's habits. We've seen how these strategic choices can seriously amplify your message and help you connect with a global audience that's passionate about tech, impact, and entrepreneurship.
And this really leaves us with an important question for you to maybe ponder on your own. In this world just saturated with digital content, how can your unique story, your purpose, be amplified? Not just for, fleeting engagement or vanity metrics, but for genuine, lasting impact.
That's the real goal.
It is. And perhaps the answer lies in embracing that authentic vulnerability we saw, meticulously learning from every single piece of data, like Simon seems to be doing, and constantly asking yourself, what meaningful connection am I truly trying to build here?
That's a fantastic thought to leave us with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.